Change the subject slightly. How has technology changed A&R, or has technology changed A&R?
Yeah, it's made it very static and sedentary. I can sit in my office. The days of being given a car and an expense account and drive off around the country and see you in 6 weeks, come back with some bands or some tapes, is gone. I hear the name of a band and invariably I can be on MySpace listening to some music within 30 seconds. So it does mean that, and people talk about the music industry becoming more London-centric. That's increasingly being driven by the fact that it doesn't matter if you're in Denmark or Birmingham or Seattle, I can hear your music today, now, in my office. So that's one way I think it's changed.
I was with
Stay away from that.
was that you?
Next week.
When I got there, it's got to
sound engineer.
Where did they come from?
That's the next panel, sound engineer.
Does anyone know how to use a desk?
Not the A&R guys.
I was with J.R. Rotum's manager the other day, who the J.R. does this, he does IAS and he did the Jason Drew record, which is why I knew him, and a bunch of stuff, all the Beluga Heights stuff. And I was chatting to him, and just as you do, and I said, how did you find everybody? And he said, well, we've got a scout who sits in the office and all he does is he trolls through MySpace. And he found Jason and all these guys that they're producing on MySpace. He says it's the same portal everybody's got. He says he just sits there, finds it and spots some talent and then brings them in. So there's no mystery to it. It's just a guy with great ears who's picked up on some people, which I found really fascinating. I said, well, keep him, don't let him go to any major, give him lots of cash.
So, and that's interesting. So, I mean, how many bands are out there? How many sort of artists and bands are in the audience? Okay, so a good kind of half. So that's important. What I think years ago, the job maybe of an A&R person would be to get the act into a presentable position, in looking right. And I don't mean just physically looking right, but looking right as a band in how it's going to be perceived to the outside world. And maybe a lot of that, I'm thinking, is basically Phil was saying, maybe a lot of that is now being done by you guys. Do you think that's right? I mean, Henry, we talked before about you doing your own A&R. Do you get up in the morning and do all your emails from all your fans?
What fans? No, I answer the MySpace requests or so I am hands-on. Sometimes you don't want it to look as though it's you, so you go, yes, Henry's pleased, when it sounds like a nutter. Henry would love to come, but he's very busy at the moment.
Do you find yourself talking in the first person a lot when you're not on email? Do you talk about Henry a lot?
No, no.
Okay, that's good.
No, not at all.
That's good. So you're doing that A&R role, you're taking that A&R role on, right?
Yeah, and I suppose in so far I'm now working on the second album, and I'm thinking, well, does this sound, basically it's down to me, albeit it's through coming out, hopefully, whether they drop me by Christmas, who knows, but hopefully through Island Records. But I am left, just to do what I do. And
do you test stuff out online? I mean, do you like kind of, do a bit of market research with stuff? If you're self A&Ring, and
the wife,
right?
The brother who's at the back there.
Right, okay.
A few friends, but no.
But if you're a recording process or when you're collating an album, you're not actually having an ongoing kind of dialogue with your potential market.
Well, I suppose I am. Well, because I'm now gigging, which so hopefully I'm clocking when I'm doing gigs. So those songs are going, and it makes you think, hang on, that bit didn't work in that.
But you're not like posting songs under a pseudonym.
No.
And see whether or not they.
No.
Sorry, yeah, Sean. Just kind of going back to what Mark said before. I'm sure a lot of bands will probably want to know this. Probably the most important question for a lot of new bands is how do they come to your attention? And you mentioned the MySpace thing, trawling through that, and there's stories going around today that you need to have 200,000 hits on your MySpace, you've got to have this, you've got to have that to get A&R's attention. And I just wondered, what are the different ways that bands would come to your attention? Now, I was in a band many years ago, before the internet was around, probably 12 years ago, And it was quite a famous story. We went to every label, and we got sent the tapes out, you know, the demo tapes back then. Yeah, that's going back in the day. And no replies. We got a couple of no thank yous from some of the labels, and one of them was East West. Literally the next week, we got a shit hot manager who was top of his game at the time. He went in and saw the boss of East West, and we got signed like a month later. And we've got the no thank you letter from one of the junior A&R guys from the same label.
But it's not there anymore.
So yeah, so it's like what I'm trying to say is, for us, I always say to people, get a good manager, because a manager will have a relationship with an A&R guy. He'll be able to go in, see that A&R guy. That's just okay.
The artist is ever the artist.
I mean, I don't know what's. I'm sure like bands, it's one of the things they really want to know. It's like how do they get to your attention? I mean, what
is it about getting a good manager? I mean, Mark, you can only work with so many artists.
Yeah.
So, you know, and your time is your money.
I mean, I would say go. I would say go management first, because I'd go good management first, right? Managers, interesting breed managers. I mean, managers had a bad rep like A&R people did for years, and there are some bad ones out there. They're not likely to rip you off financially anymore, as likely to. I mean, it might happen a little bit, but not as much as it did. But you will find managers who give you just crap advice, right? So it's you just got to find a good manager. That's another ball game altogether. But yeah, I would definitely advise new bands to go after management first, because they will play your stuff to A&R guys that are either looking or will like your stuff. Whereas if you approach record companies, you'll send it to everybody and waste your time, because they're a dance guy, or you know, it's just completely wrong. I think the other thing from presenting a band to a record label is you just, sadly, it's rare, but you can't go to a record company and go, this is a great piece of music, and they go, great, let's sign it. It's like, you need a great piece of music. Oh, and what's the story? It's just, in fact, you need the story more than you need the music these days. It's like, you need to give your A&R guy sales notes to sell your band into the rest of the label, you know? And that's where MySpace does kick in to some extent. It's not as vital as it used to be, but if you're claiming to be, you know, the darlings of the enemy, you better be in the enemy, and you better have, you know, a MySpace that looks happening. There's a lot of gigs on there. You know, Noel Gallagher thinks you're the best band he's ever met. You need a list of bullet points of sales notes these days, and that is going to be a good manager's going to say, your stuff's great, but we're not ready to go to labels yet. Let's put a little 7-inch out. Let's get a press guy. I know a great agent, and you have to build it from the floor, especially if you're a band, because bands, it's not a great time to be in a band right now. Although actually, if you were a really completely different sounding band, I think it'd be a great time to be in a band. I think there's sort of the Tinches of this world and that kind of thing. You know, that cycle I'm sure is going to come to an end, and I think there's a great guitar band is around the corner that's really new. So anyway, the trend right now is not particularly favourable to guitar-based bands, I would say. But anyway, yeah, sorry, I'm waffling now. Managers, good managers, that's the way I go, definitely.
Does it, Phil and Paul, if Mark, does the fact that a band has got a manager, like Mark, somebody who's experienced, somebody who's got a track record, does that validate the band a little bit, do you think, in your eyes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one reason why your East West Junior A&R guy wasn't necessarily wrong. I mean, I haven't read the letter, and if he said you were utter shit,
We were.
well, he wasn't. And look what happened. But whether or, you know, if he said that and you proved yourselves actually not to be quite that shit, then, you know, he said something inappropriate. But if the junior A&R guy may have thought that actually you did have some kind of musical promise, but without an infrastructure around you to enable you to realise or fulfil that, and bearing in mind that they would be working alongside you in, it's an all-consuming thing, you know, working with a major label record company. And so, yes, absolutely, he may well have thought that there was some raw musical talent there, and it is only in conjunction with a manager, maybe who they've worked with previously, who they know understands the infrastructure within the label, that they know has understanding of the marketing departments and the release schedules and the promotion departments, and they know that that particular manager is going to be the conduit, going to be the liaison, and is also going to be comfortable with and familiar with, and they're going to have confidence in, then that does potentially make a musical proposition that they weren't overly excited about initially. It does suddenly make it, considerably more attractive.
Because you've got to work with them, right? I mean, you're signing a deal for several years with them, so you've got to work with these people.
Well, if you're successful, and obviously that's the plan, isn't it? I mean, that's the plan. That you're going to be working together over a number of years, and if that's the case, and you're going to want to be assured of the fact that the person you're going to be making those decisions with for the route of the band, somebody that you do have confidence in, and that you can work alongside.